Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My guest this week is Jim Effner, founder and president of P2P Group, a company specializing in sales training for financial services professionals. His mission is to help bridge the gap between financial advisors' potential and their performance. Prior to forming the P2P Group, Jim was managing partner of one of the largest Northwestern Mutual offices in the country. He built the Effner Financial Group to nearly 150 full-time and college advisors, ensuring over 65,000 policyholders with a face amount of nearly $27 billion. A $1 million roundtable qualifier every year he worked in the business, Jim is now a lifetime member of MDRT. He was a 3-time recognition dinner/forum qualifier, which represents the top 5% of all Northwestern Mutual advisors. In fact, he was the youngest person to make forum the first 2 times he qualified. As a new advisor, he led his region in 1990, 1991, and 1992, placing runner-up in the bronze and silver awards and 3rd in the gold. Jim has overcome numerous life challenges, including losing his hearing just 30 days after taking his managing partner contract. He brings his commitment to excellence, his passion, energy, and conviction, along with his perspective of 30 plus years in the industry, to every aspect of his business. So this was my first time speaking with Jim, and I appreciated his no-nonsense approach to what it really takes to scale an advisory practice. Jim really doesn't sugarcoat the reality of growth. He tells it exactly like it is. So in this conversation, Jim breaks down his 3-phase approach to transforming advisor performance. He covers mindset, systems, and language, but we spent most of our time talking on the mindset piece because, as Jim explains, without getting your head right first, none of the tactics or strategies that follow will stick. We dive deep into why you need an external why that's powerful enough to keep you pushing through discomfort when scaling gets hard, the difficult truth of letting go of lower caliber clients and negative relationships in order to make room for growth, and why advisors must shift from being people pleasers to being leaders who have the conviction to tell clients hard truths they don't want to hear. Jim also shares real stories of advisors he's worked with, like a former pastor who went from making $150K consistently for 8 years to over $400K in his first year after the workshop, and what separated those who scaled successfully from those who settled. Now, what makes this conversation so valuable is Jim's willingness to address the psychological barriers that most advisors never talk about, but that absolutely determine whether you'll achieve your growth goals. So if you've ever wondered why you can't seem to break through to the next level, or if you're someone who wants to scale but feels stuck, this episode will give you the honest truth about what it really takes and help you decide if you're willing to pay that price. So without further ado, let's dive in. Jim, thank you so much for joining me on the Finance Marketing Podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good. I'm so happy to have you here. Could you give us a quick overview of who you are and what kind of experience you have and how long you've been in this industry?
Yeah, so this is going to make me feel really old, but I'll do it. I started in 1989, crisp off the college campus at 22 years old, so 36 years ago. I came into a company called Northwestern Mutual and was a financial representative there exclusively as an advisor for 12 years, full-time, and was doing top of the table MDRT production, which today is about $1 million of revenue in my late 20s, back in the early 90s, and had a successful career. After that, I grew into a role called the managing partner role, which then you got out of the space of being an advisor and you had a whole organization of other advisors. I had almost 150 advisors and a team of about 250 people supporting them. So an organization of about 400, I owned it. I was the CEO. I had that for 15 years. I sold and got out of that in June of 2015. And then I was young. I was 47 years old, 48 years old. And I said, you know what? I got too much energy, too much passion. I'm not going to retire. But I don't want to work for anybody. What do I want to do? And so I really felt there was a huge need in the financial services industry for professional sales training, for people to be able to, reps who are kind of on an island, who want to grow, want to be great, and have no idea how. And so I'm good at that. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I'm really good at that. And so I came up with this company. And the title in and of itself, the P2P, is potential to performance. And it's all about taking a rep and turning their true potential into real performance. And that's a process. And we have that process down to a science, literally. And we have all different ways that we bring that to light through organizations, individual reps, insurance companies, you name it. But we have workshops, we have online curriculums, we have a number of different things we do it, but it's all about taking a financial rep and leading them to a life of abundance by dramatically increasing their overall productivity.
Well, before we hit record, Jim, you mentioned that as you take somebody through your process, it's really kind of a 3-phase or a 3-step process. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's an approach we take, no matter we're doing a workshop or online curriculum, whatever. We first and foremost start with the head, the 6 inches in between the ears. What does a rep believe? What is it that drives them? Where is their headspace, right? And so you got to get that right. There's a lot of learning that goes on that is really what I would call information dumping. And it goes in and then it doesn't last very long. It's not sustainable, and then it goes out. And in order to have sustainable learning to the point that it lasts a lifetime, you got to get the headspace right. So we work in mindset and beliefs, expectations, stuff like that. And the second thing is we build all of our sales training into a system, because reps are human beings and they're emotional creatures and they're salespeople, and they're really bad at behaving in ways of whatever they're thinking or feeling at the moment. And then they wonder why they get roller coaster results. And it's because they don't have their A game 24/7, 365. Some days they're killing it. Other days they're in the ball in the corner, and so you got to get out of your own way. You got to get out of that human part of it, and you got to work on a system. Really good businesses are not run by people. Really good businesses are run by really good systems. The people run the systems run the business. And so I really systematize the sales cycle. So it's 6 sales cycles. The first one is prospecting. How do you get referrals? The second one is, because I'm old, I call it phoning. Nowadays you got phoning, texting, email, whatever. How do you turn the referrals into kept appointments? How do you get them to agree to meet with you? The third one is taking fact finding, getting to know somebody. That first meeting with a prospective client, how do you gather information and get to know them? And the fourth stage is planning. How do you put together a plan or a proposal or both? The fifth stage is implementation, closing, getting them to take action. And the sixth stage is the annual review, every year, sitting down with them and building a long-term advocacy relationship. And each one of those sales cycles has a system. So prospecting, getting referrals, that's an 8-step system. Fact finding is a 9-step system. And so we teach a system. And it's a holistic system, meaning what I mean by that is everything you need to know from the very start to the very end of the sales cycle, we teach. We don't just teach a part of it. And then last but not least, language. Language is really, really, really important. And it's not because when you speak eloquently and you can articulate things, that people are lured to that, impressed by that, and buy from you and work with you. That's not why. The reason language is so important is because when a rep really becomes a master of their craft and they know what to say and how they say it, it gives them a lot of confidence. They're not umming and on and rambling, and they're confident. And the 2 biggest, most critical things to a rep hitting peak performance is having a high degree of confidence and having a high degree of competence. And they're correlated. When you're more competent, you're more confident, right? And then last but not least, the head piece is conviction. So I call it the 3 C's. You have to be really competent. That gives you a lot of confidence. And then you have to have a ton of conviction. You have to believe in what you do to the point that it's almost like you're on a mission, and that's attractive to people. So those are the three things we put a lot of effort in, all the work we do, no matter who it's with or what topic of work we're doing.
Well, I feel like I could do a separate podcast episode with you on each of those three parts. They all sound so important and fascinating. What I really want to focus on today is that first part, is the mindset part, because I think that is a part that a lot of people really want to skip over. They really don't want to spend the time. Maybe they don't see it as more valuable. They're like, just get me to the next level. So let's start there. Why do you think that part, I know you touched on this a little bit, but why do you think that part is so important?
Because when you reach peak levels of success in any walk of life, whether it's playing a violin, playing the game of golf, being a financial advisor, no matter what, to be excellent is really hard. It just is. If it wasn't, everybody would do it. Mm-hmm. And so when you go down the path of being great, being excellent, it's hard. At some point, if you don't have your head in the right space, if you don't have a tremendous clarity around why you want to be excellent, the challenges of becoming that are going to win over, and you're going to eventually settle. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what the number is. Let's say the number is, this is more the space I work in, so I'll just use that. An individual's making $250,000, $300,000 a year. They come to my workshop because they want to get to $500,000, $1 million, right? And I got all the tools for them to do it. I got everything they need. I can teach them how to do it. I can give them the system to do it. I can give them the language to do it. But there are going to be multiple challenges along the way that are going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be risk, financial risk, because they're going to have to invest in their teams, their support. And then, if they knew they were going to make it, it'd be a no-brainer. But, the reality is they sit back and they're like, well, if I invest in my team and I spend another $100,000, $200,000 in my team and I don't make it, then what? Well, then you're screwed. So that's a risk. There's no guarantees. So that's scary, right? There's stress, there's anxiety. And the biggest one is fear. That's by far the biggest one. I'll talk about that in a second. But when you come to all those forks in the road, if you're not super crystal clear on why the hell am I doing this? What is it that I really want? And why do I want it? You're going to settle. You're making $300,000 and you're like, well, you know what? It sounded nice to make $1 million, but at the end of the day, I make $300,000. I'm still in the top, 1.5% of Americans. Life's not all that bad. I think I'll just kick back and kind of enjoy the ride. I'm not going to go through all the things I got to go through in order to make $1 million. So that is the mindset piece is really, really, really important. So I said the fear, that's the biggest piece. You want to stick in mindset. That's a big part of our mindset. So you, me, and every human being on this planet has a major fear. And that fear is what other people think of us. And it goes all the way back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The need to fit in, the need to be respected, the need to be liked, the need to be loved. And in order to be a great financial advisor, you can't just focus all day long on all of your clients liking and loving you, right? And being an ass kisser and schmoozing them and, making them feel awesome and a bunch of hugs and all that. You got to lead them, and in leading them to do things that they have proven over a lifetime, adult lifetime, they're not good at doing on their own. And you need to know when to give them a high five, and you need to know when to kick them in the ass. And people, at the end of the day, financial advising space really isn't financial advising; it's managing human behavior.
Right.
And people do a lot of stupid things with their money. That's why Americans are not good savers. It's not rational. It's not logical. And so you need to tell people when they need to stop spending money foolishly. You need to tell people they're not saving enough money. You need to tell people they're underinsured. You need to tell people they need to build a plan. You need to tell people they need to get their ducks in line and this, that, and the other, and they don't always want to hear it, And so, anyways, when you lead people, there's the chance, the opportunity, the likelihood that some people aren't going to like you. And some people are going to think you're doing it just because of your ego or because that's how you get paid or this and that and the other. And it's scary for a lot of people. And they don't want people to not like them. And so therefore they don't do what's necessary to be great. And the analogy I use there is I say to athletes, to individuals that when they were young, they were an athlete, like in junior high and high school and all that. And I say, go back and look at the coaches that you hated, the ones that were really, really hard on you, the ones that saw more in you than you saw in you. And at the time, you wanted to, punch them in the stomach. But looking back now in hindsight, they were the best coaches you had because they pushed you. They got you to do things that other coaches couldn't get you to do. And that's what great financial advisors are, and you don't get the love all the time and you don't get liked all the time. So that headspace is important. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing is that if it was easy to make $1 million, everyone would do it. You said that before.
Right.
And so when you're talking to advisors about getting in the right mindset and you're teaching them about, well, this is the price that you'll have to pay in order to make it to $1 million or whatever that number is for them.
Yeah, right.
Do you ever find that most advisors see that price that they'll have to pay and they'll say, okay, I'm willing to pay it? Or do some people see that price that they have to pay and they say, you know what, maybe that's not the right goal for me?
Yeah. It's somewhere in the middle, Hillary. What I mean by that is that if you just use, it's easy just to stick with the numbers I use because no matter what numbers you use conceptually, it's all relevant, right? But if somebody comes in making 300 and they want to get to $1 million, or at least at the start, that's what they say they're there for. It's usually not that they keep going and pay the price to get to $1 million, although some do. That's my dream, right? And it's also not that they revert and settle back to just making 300. It's they learn enough from me. They bite off what it is they can tolerate to chew, and that gets them to maybe 450 or 5. And at that point, they're like, all right, I'm done. This is good enough. So it's not like they revert back to the old way and just say, I'm not paying any price, but also very few pay the full price to get to $1 million and beyond, because I really believe that there's an essence of living that when you're in the game and you have goals and you have a purpose and you have a mission and you're energized by it, there has to be a healthy balance of it because I've been married 36 years, so having a great marriage. I got 3 awesome kids I got a great relationship with. That's important to me. I like to play golf. I like to do other things, but I also have a passion for this industry. And I don't really see ever stopping. And so on that train, if you get to $1 million, it's like, okay, well, let's try to get to 2 million. Let's try to get to 4 million. And it's not on the concept that more is better because he or she that dies with the most toys wins. It's not about greed and lifestyle and all that. Those are fun things, but those aren't the primary benefit. You got to get connected. For me personally, it's impact. I want to impact this industry. I love this industry. This industry has given me and my family more than I ever dreamed of. I grew up in a very middle-class household. I never dreamed of this. And it was because this industry it's blessed me in a lot of ways. So I want to give back. I want to have impact. And unfortunately, whether we all like it or not, in the financial services industry, the income we make is a scorecard of our impact. It just is, whether you like it or not. If you're making $3 million a year, you're having a bigger impact than if you're making 30,000 a year, And so it's not necessarily just for the lifestyle and all that. I want to have as much impact as possible. And so to always be growing, to always be on my toes, to never fall into a rut, to never get bored, to always be learning new ideas, learning new things, meeting new people. It keeps you alive. It keeps you young. It keeps you healthy, so. that's just the mentality from a mindset that I have.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Can you maybe give us a few tangible examples of maybe different advisors that you've worked with and what I suppose, what their why is, what their goal is when they have these big growth goals that keeps them grounded and that keeps them in the right mindset to overcome the challenges?
You know what a lot of them would be? I could think of many that fall into this category. They had you know, an individual that was a pastor, lives in Dallas, Texas, came to one of my workshops, and he had been in the financial advisory space for 8 years, but his dad was a pastor and he was a pastor before he got into being a financial advisor. And, you know, he had made between 140 and 150. He was the most consistent dude I ever met in my life. For 8 years, he never made less than 140 and never more than 155. He was like a book. You know, he was like in this bam, 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 bam. And the very first 12 months after he graduated from our workshop, he grossed over $400,000.
Wow.
And his why, his mindset was that he loved his childhood. He loved his mom and dad. He loved his faith, but he felt deprived from having a lot of things because pastors don't make any money. So he never got on a plane till he was like 25 years old. You know, if they went on a vacation, him and his brothers, it was in a station wagon for hours, and it was putting a tent up in a forest preserve, you know. And he's like, I got 3 kids. I want to fly them to Disney World. I want them to see the world. I want to fly them to Europe. I want to give them exposure that I never had, you know. And he also was really fired up about, I want my kids to be able to academically get in any school they can get in. And I want to be able to look them at the eye and say, I got your back. I'm paying for it. Mm-hmm. My parents couldn't pay for my college education. He said, and I was limited as to what school I could choose based on finance. I want my kids, you can get in Harvard, I'll pay for it, you know. So his why was really connected, that he wanted to give his kids so much more than he was ever given. And a lot of those, you know, be it good or bad, right or wrong, it's not, it just, they come with a money price tag, you know. To go to college costs money, you know, to take your kids to Europe costs money, you know. And so he was very, very motivated and willing to deal with all of those uncomfortable things because he was so dead set on providing a lifestyle for his children that he never felt he got for himself. Mm. And over time, he just realized that more and more. And so that really was his fuel when he caught himself starting to settle and starting to not want to, you know, I always call it with my people in my workshops, I go, you got to learn how to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because mm-hmm. when you're super uncomfortable, that's when you're growing. And right. You can't flee from that. You gotta bask in it. And it's an oxymoron, but you got to understand how to do that and why to do that. So those are whys that are probably the most common. You know, some people, it's just, I would fall under this category that I feel the good Lord has blessed me with a lot. And I don't want to die someday with a bunch of unused talent that he blessed me with. And I feel that I want to tap into all the potential that I've been blessed with, and I don't want to waste it. And you know, if I could today sit back and not work again. I'm 58, I don't have to work anymore, but there's so much more gas in the tank. And I just feel like, you know, why would I let that go to waste? There's so many lives I could impact. There's so many people I could help. It'd be selfish for me just to start playing 200 rounds of golf and travel with my wife and never work another day and just kind of hoard all my money and, you know, be comfortable. And that thought doesn't set well with me. So I'm really motivated because I want to be great, and anything short of that, I feel as if it's a waste. Mm-hmm. Like there's a huge obligation to be great in an industry that needs greats to give back, to keep it going, you know. So, you know, I'm trying to think of other examples, but for whatever the reason might be, it's sustainable and it's powerful enough. It's not just, I want to buy my next house. because then once you buy it, then what? You
Right.
know, I want to have X amount of dollars in my kid's 529 to send them to college. Okay, great. But once you have that, then what? You know, so it has to be more eternal, you know. So I don't know if
That's
that answers the
that's
question.
really powerful, Jimmy. Yeah, no, I actually have chills as you were kind of talking through, what your driving reason is and these other examples. So I really appreciate that. Tell me about some of the challenges that cause people to settle or that cause people to feel uncomfortable. You mentioned you got to invest more in your team. There's a financial risk to that. What are some other challenges that advisors need to prepare for or need to know these are probably coming as you're
Yeah, that's a
growing?
great question. You know, the finance piece is one of the least ones.
Mm,
It might sound facetious when I say that, but you know, most people can bite that off if they need to when it's time. I'm not saying it's not scary. I'm not saying it's not a little bit difficult, but that's the least challenge. The biggest challenge is really a couple of things, and they're both interrelated. Um, Letting go of people. Let me explain.
mm,
As an advisor, your biggest asset is your time. Now, once you're established as an advisor, um, hopefully, if you're any good, you get to the point where you really don't have any more time. If you want to have a life, you know, you want to be with your family, you want to have weekends off, evenings off. So you got, you know, call whatever, 8 to 4:30, 5 o'clock you got. And you're seeing 5 meetings, 6 meetings a day, 4 meetings, whatever it is. And you're busy from start to finish. So you're making 200, 400, 800, 150, whatever the number is, and you want to double your business, you want to quadruple your business. The answer is not double the amount of people you see. That you don't have any more time. So the answer is a couple things. Number one, stop seeing the people you're seeing and get in front of much higher caliber people. I mean, that's the first step. So if you're an advisor and you've got a client that you've had for 5, 6, 7 years and they make 150 grand and you just put a stake in the ground and said, okay, in order for me to get to where I want to go, I can't ever be in front of anybody that makes less than 500 grand a year. I can't. I just can't. And a lot of reps can't stomach that. It's like, well, I can't leave people behind. I made promises to them. I made commitments to them. I did this. I did this. I did this. I did this. And they can't grasp letting them go. And so that's a big challenge for people. You know, you got
sure.
to leave people behind to grow. I mean, you're in any model, Hillary, in any model, but we're here to talk about financial services. Your environment is huge. Your environment is huge. If you want to be great, you got to let go of Debbie Downers. You know,
Mm,
I'm not talking to your clients right now. I'm talking like, you know, if you're in an organization where there's multiple advisors and you socialize with them, you go on trips with them, you have outings with them, and you're in that space. There's people that are negative. There's people that bring you down. There's people that are naysayers. There are people that don't want to go where you want to go, and you can't hang out with them anymore. And you got to be around people that build you up. You got to be around people that are where you want to go. You got to be around people that inspire you. You got to be around people that build your attitude and your energy. And you got to divorce people that are Debbie Downer. You can't deal with family, but with business relationships, if they're not growing the way you want to grow, they're not going to where you want to go, they're not behaving the way you're behaving, and they're dragging you down, you got to let them go. And these could be people that have been friends of yours for 10 years.
right.
And a lot of reps can't do that. A lot of reps can't. And at surface, it sounds selfish. It sounds narcissistic, right? But at the end of the day, why should one deprive themselves of where they could go and what it could mean for their family for generations if they become great just because they want to tolerate some Debbie Downer socially in their life? I don't have time for that. I got to choose my friends wisely. My wife and I are busy. We had, now we're empty nesters, but when we had 3 young kids going in different directions for sporting events or whatever, you only have so much time to socialize. And it's like, man, I'm not going to hang out with the one Saturday night I get to hang out and have fun with a bunch of friends that depress me, that bring me down, that all they do is sit and bitch and moan about their job and about their lack of money and this and that and the other. Like, that makes my skin crawl. I want to be around people that are like, oh my gosh, Jimmy, isn't life awesome? Like, somebody pinch me. I'm living a dream. This is amazing. I don't know how to spend all this money I'm making. It's like, those are the people I want to be around,
Right.
And so, letting go. That's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Financial one we talked about. That's a real tough one. And leading people. Stop pleasing everybody. Stop schmoozing everybody. Learn the art of having courageous, challenging conversations. But there's an art to that. And I mean that because if you're having courageous, challenging conversations with people that you don't have a relationship with, that you first and foremost have proven and demonstrated that you genuinely care about them, then challenging and courageous conversations are called harassment. And that's not cool, So you have to earn the right to challenge people. You have to earn the right to have courageous conversations with people. And that's by taking the time to get to know them. That's asking questions, listening, demonstrating that you really care, But then once you do that, you got to have the courage to enter into that space. So that's hard for a lot of people. That's too difficult for them.
I'm really glad I asked you that question, Jim, because you brought up quite a few things that I personally wouldn't have thought of. But I mean, I can see how having that driving force in your life, having your why really clear and figured out, why that is so, so, so important. Well, Jim, if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, where are the best places to do that?
Yeah, well, my email address is simple. It's jim@jimeffner.com. And our website address is Jim Effner, www.jimeffner.com. So those are really, really simple. That would be the best way to get started.
Great. Awesome. And you mentioned you have a book as well. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, you can buy it on Amazon. The name of the book is called Bridge Your Gap. I'm the author, obviously, Jim Effner. So if you go to Amazon and type in Bridge Your Gap by Jim Effner, it'll pop right up. You can get the audio version or the regular version. And the book is about 1/3 my life story. And 2/3 is basically a manual, a textbook, as to each one of those sales cycles that I told you about, those 6 sales cycles, and each one of the steps in each one of those sales cycles as to how to do this, how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. So I obviously think it's a great book because I'm biased. I wrote it, but it's a great reference for individuals to get started in a very I don't even know what it costs anymore, $20-25, something like that, but in a very low price point to begin to get inside our world and what we do. And then we have an online academy. You can see the logo behind my head, P2P Group. There is a academy called P2P-academy.com. That's a subscription website. And that took me almost 4 years to build. Over 300 videos on it. I went into a studio 2 half days a month for 4 years, filming anything and everything that I know, that I learned from all the years I've been in this business. And that's a really good reference for $50 a month. Somebody could watch videos over and over and over and over for years without ever meeting me live or coming for a more significant investment to invest in one of my workshops. And you could just go through curriculum after curriculum on that academy. And like I said, I think it's $50 a month, and it's P2P-academy.com.
Amazing. Well, I will link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Jim, for everything you've shared.
Yeah, you bet. You have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.